Well, greetings, visitors to the paper prison. Once more, it is I, your host, the comics prisoner, sentenced for crimes against comics illustration to be forever imprisoned in beautiful pieces of comic art. And today is a little different as we have a visitor who brings his own cell with him. A beautiful page by Barry Windsor Smith from Conan the Barbarian. We have a longtime fan, former comics retailer and publisher, Mr. Jim at DC Books Kirkland. Yay! Welcome, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Hey, I've been wanting to do this for a while. So, well, it's kind of a big day. I've been looking forward to doing this with you, but on this day we lost a giant. You might say it's almost the end of the '60s Marvel bullpen, but there are a couple left. I'm sure everyone's heard of the passing of Joe Sinnott, and I just want to take a moment to mention the passing. It's unfortunate timing.
One of the quintessential Marvel inkers, especially on Kirby and that Fantastic Four run. It's sad that so many of our greats, that we're outliving them, and their careers have given so much to us. Sinnott's amazing work with Kirby, didn't really do a lot of stuff outside of, towards Barry Smith's Conan run, but I did note a couple of cool little crossovers. One of the few times Kirby drew Conan, Sinnott inked him on Giant Size Conan #5, which reprints Conan 14 and 15 by Barry Smith. And he did Conan 46, which is collected in the Conan Marvel Treasury, which is the beautiful giant, late 70s, early 80s reprints, and has a wonderful Buscema cover inked by Sinnott. So great to, appreciate his work, and sad to hear him pass.
Absolutely. I'm glad that I already did a show about Sinnott. I'd always planned to go back and talk about some more, but rest assured we will have a special episode about him. All right, now let's look at the place I'm currently confined in. And thank you for visiting me. Being in solitary confinement is really tough sometimes here in the paper prison. So what do we have here?
Page of Barry Windsor Smith at the height of his Conan run. Part of the Red Nails storyline, beautifully inked by Barry Smith. At the time, he'd sort of been inked by several great inkers moving forward, but you could see his progression as an artist, and this is sort of where he's, really peaking.
Right. We were talking a little bit before, and this is something not many people understand, is that especially in this time period at Marvel, when you wanted to get your foot in the door, you really never knew what the person can do, because to be hired, you copied someone popular, and that still goes on today. When Mike Deodato came on the scene, he did a Jim Lee, clone-ish thing because he wanted to get hired. But I've seen his work from Brazil, and it was amazing and nothing like Jim Lee. And I'm glad I think he's been able to do more like himself. But when he first got hired, right, he was like a little bit of a Kirby influence going on there.
Oh, absolutely. And you still see the Kirby influence in this page. If you look at the very top panel, there's some incredible foreshortening. I was mentioning earlier, this page is literally the prime example of Kirby's foreshortening meeting, Dynamic Anatomy by Vern Hogarth. There's the top panel, the foreleg. As an inker, you probably would have nightmares looking at something like this. I had worked with a couple of artists on one of our early books, and one of them's very heavily influenced by Kaluta and Vess, and the poor fellow who had inking him said, literally, if I ever see another blade of grass again, it'll be too soon. Barry Smith got some of his own treatment here, because when you look, every hair, every blade of grass, perfectly rendered.
Yeah, and this was a tipping point, right? Because if the editors didn't like it, or if the feedback from the fans was like, what is this? He may not have been allowed to go further on this, you know? So it was like, okay, here it is. I'm giving all or nothing, you know?
I mean, you can see if you go from, you know, the early Conans that had the serious Kirby influence to, you know, around issue 14 and 15, the growth Barry Smith shows in that period is amazing. And, you know, it's also, he had to win those fans over because he wasn't popular with the bullpen on a lot of levels, one of which was that he was barely doing a book every other month. And there's a story that I cannot attribute to any specific bullpen artist, but we can probably make a couple of guesses, where one of the professionals who was doing multiple books a month, you know, Barry Smith showed up to turn in Conan, you know, 12 or something, after taking 3 months to do the work. And, you know, it's beautifully rendered in every little line. And this guy who had to crank out 3 books a month to cover his mortgage apparently braced Barry Smith in the elevator and said, you know, you dirty hippie, my livelihood here, making me look bad with this stuff that you spend weeks on. I got a job to do. And I can see why Barry Smith stopped dropping his pages off in person.
Well, you know, that story has been like assigned to so many people. Like I heard like Gil Kane in an interview said something or similar, that he was, you know, like I had to do like 20 covers a month, and, you know, these kids, they just take forever. And, you know, who knows who actually said it, but I'm sure a lot of them were saying it.
Yeah, and you have to go after something with literally thousands of blades of grass and every hair perfect. That's tough to compete, especially if you're an artist on a monthly book.
Yeah, I didn't follow Conan around this period, so I didn't get to see the actual transformation. But one thing, what I do know, like, my opinion is that when an artist brings something from the outside of comics into comics, that's when he elevates comics. And Bob Downs always said, like, always called this his pre-Raphaelite stage, and he was like influenced by Raphael.
The whole movement of the studio artists. I mean, Kaluta, Wrightson, Barry Smith, Jeff Jones. I mean, Jeff Jones didn't do a lot of comic work, but here he is at the hand of Frazetta. And you've got these guys living together in that studio, creating some of the most iconic books of the 70s and early 80s. It's amazing that we get, it's all still here. We can still go back and look at it. I don't see how going forward this isn't seen as a sort of fine art representation in the medium. I was up in New York, you know, a year and a half ago, where they had the big Frankenstein, and they had Wrightson's Frankenstein pages right there next to, you know, William Blake and the actual original, you know, handwritten Frankenstein pages. These guys made their mark, and they're still mostly still alive. Sad that we've lost Wrightson and Jones, but they've had such careers that we've been able to follow my whole life.
Absolutely. Just real fast on the whole influences, I was going to point out, you know, you could say Barry Windsor Smith with Raphael, but, you know, I always think of Adam Hughes, who was like, I was going to say in his Mucha phase, but he's kind of still in his Mucha phase. So I don't think he ever stopped being a Mucha. But good on him. He does great work too.
Barry totally brought that kind of feeling to his art. Not always in the Marvel stuff, but a lot of his portfolios and prints, his Arthurian legend portfolios, very design oriented. Everything in its place, everything very carefully laid out. But as per comics, you know, you have an artist who could do fine art, could do, you know, one of those walls in a church, but then brings that, like you said, to the comic page. When we look at like the bottom left panel, where Conan looks like he's literally about to explode off the ground. I don't think I've seen a more dynamic, you know, pose. Like the earth under him, he looks like he's literally pushing against it. He's so ready to move. The movement that he has storytelling wise is this is the perfect artist for action.
Yeah, I mean, Conan is about fantastical elements, and yeah, you could have had Conan like fight a lion. That would have been okay.
He
But
does.
Conan fighting a giant lizard, that's Conan. you know, and
He fought a good share of lions, but of course those lions were, made no noise and had to be killed with poisons. But
right,
this was a period where Barry Smith was sort of defining Marvel pop art. It's sort of like the definition of what they were kind of teasing at, but he was the forefront of that and grew into it. Following in the steps of Kirby, and boy, did they have some big shoes to fill when he left, and they certainly, with Gil Kane and John Buscema following, kept that book rolling for decades.
right. And the nice thing about this time at Marvel is, I don't want to say they would let you be bad at first, but you could come in and grow, and if there's any shortcomings, they would, if they saw the positive stuff, they said, okay, let's let this guy grow. But I think, like you said, he's at his peak right now. Only thing I'll say, like I said, I really got to know him on his return to Marvel, like inking Machine Man, which I just went, wow, who is this? Where did this guy come from? But if I could quote an interview I listened to, or read rather, from Alan Davis, in his Art of Alan Davis book, or Martin Masters, he was talking about his influences, and they had a picture of Barry Windsor Smith's Conan, and Conan needs to cut down branches to make some kind of trap, right? It says any other artist would have had those branches conveniently just overhead, but he had to, he threw himself into kind of a ravine, that the tree is growing out of a ravine, so his feet are on the cliffside, his arms are holding on to the tree, and if he was to slip, he would fall, and he's cutting the branches. And it's like, oh, that's a great example, Alan Davis.
That's 3 pages before this one.
Oh, great. All right.
They stabbed this dinosaur they call a dragon, and with a poison that hopefully makes it blind, but it still found them. Mm-hmm. But it's Red Nails is a classic. It's one of those great pieces that it's left Marvel. It was reprinted in Dark Horse and collected in the big giant Treasury editions multiple times. It's just one of those epic, and not all comic fans were superhero fans. So it's so nice that Marvel was offering, a fantasy sword and sorcery kind of book to clearly all those guys with the Frazetta painted vans, didn't just have to talk about the guys in tights. There was some other stuff out there, and Barry Smith delivered.
Well, it's been said that Roy Thomas saved Marvel twice. Once when he got the Conan license, and once when he got the Star Wars license. And if you're going to look at it that way, then by extension, this period cemented Conan to make it continue to be a rock for Marvel. So, it's all tied in together, would you say?
I mean, going off of the Frazetta covers to the Marvel comics led into the movie itself. Arnold Schwarzenegger's career might be in some way dependent on, Barry Smith's Conans. The timing for that character was right, and it certainly was a huge break for him.
Well, the nice thing about Barry Windsor Smith is he's had several phases or eras of his art, so we get to discover him 2 or 3 times, and it's just, and this is a great time, to see it. It's you see the greatness to come, and like in Weapon X, but this is really great too.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, so do you have any last comments on this little thing I'm confined in? Damn you!
Gonna get stuck in a page. Might as well keep one that's gonna keep you busy. And there's
Great.
a lot of busy going on here.
Great. Well, the clock on the wall tells me visiting hours are about over. I want to thank Jim Kirkland for coming by. I hope he comes again. This has been my funnest one yet. And we hope you'll come back, and we always want to hear your opinion on the arts because you are knowledgeable on it because of your background in both as creator and as retailer. So please come back. And so thank you. So as the warden says, visiting hours are closed. And as I like to say, if you like what you've seen here, please feel free to like, subscribe, smash the bell. I really am trying to make a community here, and I hope I see some comments in the comments field, and you can also hit the Facebook page. By the way, Jim, where can the people find you on the web?
Out the Dreaming City Books Facebook page, or get a link to it at dreamingcitybooks.com.
Okay, I'll be putting that in the video description so people don't have to do any transcription. Okay. Well, thanks again, sir. It's been great seeing you again. And as I want to say, please remember, 4 walls do not a prison make, but comics can be a very cool prison. Take care now.